On a seemingly routine Thursday in March 2023, a household in Ocala, Florida, appeared to be winding down for the night. Herbert Swilley, his husband Timothy Smith, and Herbert's daughter Jordan had shared dinner and a movie. To anyone looking in from the outside, it seemed like an ordinary evening. But behind closed doors, a deadly plan was already in motion. While Timothy slept, Herbert secretly administered a massive dose of diphenhydramine, the sedating ingredient commonly found in sleep aids. Toxicology reports would later reveal that Timothy had nearly 40 times the standard amount in his system, leaving him unable to defend himself. Once Timothy was completely incapacitated, Herbert launched a brutal attack. Timothy suffered severe facial injuries before Herbert used a ligature to strangle him with such force that his neck snapped in a hyperextension injury. The victim's death was especially tragic considering how much he had overcome in life. Timothy had spent years battling obesity and alcohol dependency before achieving 3 years of sobriety. He transformed himself into a respected executive at an assisted living facility, where he became known for his compassion and dedication to helping others through their own struggles. That journey came to a devastating end on the morning of March 25, 2023, when Timothy's body was discovered inside a secondary rental apartment he used as a private studio. But the discovery itself was part of a carefully crafted deception. Herbert contacted the Marion County Sheriff's Office, portraying himself as a worried spouse who hadn't seen Timothy in 2 days. He directed deputies to the rental unit, claiming Timothy's vehicle was parked outside but insisting he didn't have a key to enter. When a landlord finally unlocked the apartment, deputies entered and made a horrifying discovery. What they didn't know yet was that Herbert's story was already beginning to unravel. As investigators processed the scene, they quickly noticed things that didn't make sense. Although there were no signs of forced entry, the apartment smelled strongly of bleach. Forensic testing later suggested that someone had conducted a significant cleanup in an apparent effort to destroy evidence. Meanwhile, Herbert began providing detectives with a series of confusing and contradictory explanations. He claimed he had last seen Timothy on Thursday night and assumed his husband had simply left for work early Friday morning while Herbert was at the gym. He also offered an unusual explanation for why it took so long to locate Timothy, claiming a mislabeled contact in his phone had prevented him from reaching the landlord sooner. The explanations only raised more questions. As detectives dug deeper, Herbert eventually admitted that he had visited a public landfill on the morning Timothy disappeared, a detail he had conveniently omitted during his earlier interviews. Then investigators received information from Herbert's daughter, Jordan. Her statements contradicted her father's timeline. Jordan revealed that Herbert had previously claimed Timothy left the house during the middle of the night, a version of events that differed from what he had told law enforcement. With each new interview, Herbert's account continued to shift. Investigators soon uncovered another possible motive hidden beneath the surface. The marriage was falling apart. Timothy was the primary breadwinner and had been preparing to leave the relationship for a new career opportunity. For Herbert, that separation represented not only an emotional loss but also a potentially devastating financial blow. And that's when detectives discovered something even more significant. Timothy carried life insurance and retirement accounts worth more than $380,000, and Herbert was listed as the sole beneficiary. The case was beginning to look less like a missing person investigation and more like a carefully planned murder for financial gain. As the case moved to trial, prosecutors presented evidence that painted a devastating picture. Digital forensic data showed Timothy's phone traveling from the family residence to the rental apartment during the middle of the night. Surveillance footage captured a truck matching Herbert's vehicle making the same journey. The evidence suggested that Timothy's body had been transported after the murder. Perhaps the most damaging testimony came from Herbert's own daughter. Jordan told jurors that immediately after Timothy's disappearance, Herbert began removing Timothy's belongings from the home. She also described how her father insisted they thoroughly clean Timothy's Jeep using chemicals purchased from an auto parts store. But her most chilling revelation involved what happened after investigators began asking questions. According to Jordan, Herbert explicitly instructed her to lie. He told her to claim that she had been asleep on the night Timothy was killed and that she had heard nothing unusual. The testimony provided jurors with a first-hand account of an attempted cover-up. The defense attempted to suggest that other acquaintances could have been responsible for Timothy's death. However, the combination of surveillance footage, digital evidence, forensic findings, and Herbert's own deceptive actions proved overwhelming. The defense attempted to suggest that other acquaintances could have been responsible for Timothy's death. Jurors ultimately rejected the alternative theories. In September 2025, the case reached its conclusion. Herbert Swilly was found guilty of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison. What began as a staged welfare check request ultimately exposed a cold and calculated betrayal. Through months of investigation and years of legal proceedings, the truth emerged, bringing a measure of justice to Timothy Smith's loved ones and a community left shocked by the murder of a man who had worked so hard to rebuild his life.